have today Nataly Huff from Innovate Forward, and we're going to be talking about how growth is changing in 2025. And I first wanted to give you an opportunity to give yourself an intro.
Sure. Happy to be here. Happy to chat, Tyler. Tyler and I worked together at one of my previous full-time corporate roles before I went into the consulting space. But my background comes from growth marketing for the last 17, 18 years. It's always been around how do you take something that already has product market fit and get it in front of more people successfully. So whether it's startups or scale-ups or transformations, that's where my background comes from, and that's how Innovate Forward got started.
Awesome. So the big thing that I wanted to talk about today is just sort of how things are changing in 2025 versus years previous, because
Mhm.
the rate of change I feel like is accelerating in the marketing world and just in the tech space in general. And I think like the introduction of AI, which has been really from the machine learning AI side, has already been had its fingers very deep in the growth marketing space. But I wanted to just first and foremost ask you just how you think the state of growth marketing looks like in 2025 and how you see it changing going forward.
I think growth marketing is going to see and is seeing the same kind of accelerated blow up as everything else. And really, that is coming from the fact that any organizations that have continuously invested in infrastructure and have continuously invested in making sure that they're staying up to date with the latest technology are now able to capitalize it in a much more accessible way. And because they're getting to that point of more mass adoption, even from brands who might not necessarily be at the forefront of innovation, they're able to see a lot more benefit from the tools and the practices that are available.
Yeah. One of the things that we've noticed is that a lot of the tools at people's disposal, in some instances, making it harder to be bad, but also sometimes harder to be really, really good and sort of like leveling the playing field in a lot of ways. Are you seeing similar stuff on your side?
Yes, definitely. So, one of the things, especially as you're leaning into algorithmic learning, it does kind of average things out and take out the outliers, which is really, really helpful for people who have nobody and nothing
Mm.
managing their work. However, there is still extreme value in the expertise and experience and the creativity that comes from optimization and really knowing your stuff that the algorithmic learning can kind of gloss over and cut off. So
Mhm.
yes, I absolutely see that. And usually the organizations that have been investing and have either an agency that has been doing an amazing job or have some internal teams that have been doing an amazing job, they are using some of those algorithmic tools with caution.
Yeah. So in your client base, like, what is the general client sentiment around like the state of change within growth marketing today?
It's a mixed bag. There's some that are definitely experiencing fear. And, somebody who's in consulting, I kind of am the canary in the coal mine, if you will, for how people are feeling and whether or not they're investing, because it's an easy investment to make and it's easy investment to pull. And there are some clients that are coming to me from the standpoint of fear, from understanding that this is moving way faster than they're able to manage, and they need some help. They need somebody to figure out how do we rein it in and actually put it to good use. While others are coming in from extreme optimism, talking about the fact that they've been preparing for this and now they're ready to go. Here's everything that we have in place. How do we manage it? What do we do first? And how can we do it better? So it
Yeah.
is a wide range. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing on your end, Tyler.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of sales calls that I've been having where people understand that things are changing quickly and they don't want to like waste time trying to figure it out on their own. And they're looking to bring on experts to help them do it. Because I think the understanding is that, like we mentioned, a lot of the AI and algorithmic learning is reducing some of the peaks and valleys, removing some of the outliers. So they're confident that they could figure it out on their own, but admittedly want to get going and don't want to fall into any pitfalls or make any clear mistakes that a company like ours would help them avoid. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing is like people want to move quickly, they want to lose ground, and that's where like an expert can come in and ramp that growth a little bit faster than they could on their own. Are you seeing like general client sentiment also just about the market in general? Because that's another thing that we've seen like has been really affecting us is just the state of, tech startups has been a little bit of shaky ground over the last couple of years. Have you been seeing the same?
The last couple of years, for sure, definitely the latter half of last year was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unwillingness to take any sort of risks. I think it's loosening up. I think I'm seeing it kind of in the job market as well, and how many people are bringing people on to their marketing teams and looking to invest in growth again, as well as people who want to talk about growth initiatives and recognizing, okay, we've taken our foot off the gas pedal. Let's see what we can do to bring it back because
Hmm.
it hasn't served us. So definitely seeing some more excitement and some more energy in that space. From the consumer sentiment, I know that there's brands out there that are suffering, right? Between the kind of volatility that we're having in the political landscape, the volatility that we're having with weather, right? Especially if you are going after consumers who have to get out of their house and make their way over to your business. In many of those cases, kind of the regional differences with the very crazy weather we've been having are having an impact as well. That's really not unique. We always have this after an election year. We always have when we have winters and hurricane seasons. So that's something that most brands are fairly used to.
What are you seeing sort of as like the biggest changes? So we're talking about like sort of just the state of startups in general, as well as the state of marketing. And I want this question to sort of cover both. But what do you see as the biggest changes on the horizon for you and your business in 2025?
The personalization at scale is going to become more and more important, and it's really impossible to do it without enterprise level AI. We see consumers that are both a little bit creeped out by too much personalization, but are starting to really expect to have content that is deeply relevant to you. And if it's not, it definitely becomes wallpaper, or people become really frustrated and it lowers the brand equity. But how do you get to that level of personalization? How do you get to that level of content velocity? How do you get to know that much about your audience without actually investing in the tools? So I think for me, a lot of the conversations that I'm having are around, okay, we know what the end result should be. How do we get from point A to point B? How do we get from where we are
Hmm.
now? We have an AI committee and a budget approved for innovation. What do we do with it? And how do we apply it to our outbound marketing?
It's interesting. So what types of tools and things are you leveraging to help your clients grow right now?
So the clients tend to pick their own tools within their organizations, right? Some are leaning hard into Copilot, others are deep into Claude, and others are trying to kind of build their own collaboration from
Hmm.
kind of Gemini and Agentforce and ChatGPT, and they don't really have any oversight specifically. So as they take those tools together to figure out what they want to do with it, they are frequently having conversations of what does the media have in place already that can integrate with what we know. And those integrations are not new, right? The media
Hmm.
platforms have been utilizing algorithmic optimizations for years.
Yeah, a decade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's really around what are we able to feed into it to give it more information, not necessarily
Mhm.
what is the media going to do differently now because
Yeah.
everyone's been doing it.
AI tools in the sales space have really been helpful for a lot of our clients. We've seen clients using tools like Unified GTM for clients, where if people hit a certain intent choke point on their site, they can use their data to then send an email to those people. And it's sort of replacing what the traditional remarketing campaigns used to do. And as we move into a more privacy first browsing world, remarketing, I think, has lost a lot of value. And so using these tools like Unify uses clear bit reveal and 6sense data on the back end. And
Mhm.
then if it matches to your CRM, they can then fire off an email to those people. And it just sort of is replacing the historical remarketing approach with something that is more like warm outbound. That's been something we've really seen work well. One of the things that I would say as a point of caution is we're seeing a lot of people trying to replace content teams with AI. And I think like one of the biggest things that I've seen is when companies do that, it generally tends to backfire. I always describe AI as like a really good force multiplier, but not a replacement for talent or skill, but a amplifier, right? So if you can mind dump your ideas, then ask it to help you build out content briefs and things like that, and then go use that as the source for what you're going to write. that ends up really being a good way of using AI. But generally speaking, the AI copy tools we generally recommend people stay away from at the moment.
Especially when you're looking at social algorithms and SEO algorithms, they tend to penalize the
Yeah.
AI-generated content. It definitely needs a human touch. One of the things I was talking about with a colleague recently is that we're able to create content a lot faster now, which is great, but it doesn't actually change the amount of content that a person can consume. So
Yeah.
the quality of the content and the relevance of the content and the engagement that it can bring is not something that AI can replicate or replace quite
Hmm.
yet. And that's really where the skill comes from in terms of content marketing.
Yeah, I generally think it's better to produce a handful of really excellent content pieces rather than hundreds of mediocre ones for that exact same reason. But yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, so what are some areas that you're working on with your organization that you're trying to really get good at right now, or things that you've been focused on that you're really starting to enter into like a place where you're excited about the work you're doing?
So just by the nature of some of the clients that I've been bringing on, we've been spending a lot more time account-based marketing. And that is a lot more narrow, a lot more targeted, a lot more individual approach than what I've been used to in the consumer space. Um,
Hmm.
so that's if we're going back to the level of content, the level of personalization, the level of intent behind each interaction. That's been really exciting to see how you can bring in the creativity and the psychology and the data available um, to kind of pull that in. There's a tool that I was recently introduced to called Baldo. It does surprisingly impressive work of actually giving you background on a target to create that personal experience or the you see me, you recognize me experience. So that one I've been impressed with, but I think going back to the point of personalization and personalization at scale,
Hmm.
account-based marketing has been really interesting on my end.
Yeah, I think one of the really interesting things too for us is just we're seeing a lot of companies right now, as there is sort of this shaky ground within the startup space, there is less sure funding at least, and things are just not the same way they were 3 years ago. So we're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of people adopting account-based approaches as ways to drive similar value for lower cost amounts. And generally speaking, it's been something we've always sort of incorporated as part of a broader LinkedIn account approach, but now is becoming more like the primary approach for a lot of companies we work with. So we're definitely seeing the same thing with the account-based side. And it just makes sense. Like I think one of the things that originally drew me to digital marketing was being able to like laser focus on the data. And,
Yes.
with Google and Facebook removing so many levers of control, it's a lot harder to do that now. And the account-based marketing approach is sort of a return to what originally like attracted me to digital marketing in the early days. So we've definitely seen the same thing and been pushing really hard on that front too.
Well, and with account-based marketing, this is where marketing operations becomes important because if you are to scale account-based marketing in any
Hmm.
shape or form, you need to make sure that the systems and processes on your back end allow for that to happen. And so you've introduced an offering in marketing operations late last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think marketing operations and measurement are sort of like two things that we've been really focused on a lot for the last year or so, is just making sure that we're tying back all of the data points that we can and making sure that we're driving as effectively to what business success looks like rather than just marketing metrics. We don't want to just drive leads. We want to make sure that we're driving leads that are also turning into opportunities. And being able to communicate that effectively with, marketing ops and measurement has really been crucial, and then also being able to connect growth programs and organic media programs and content programs to the broader business picture, and making sure that we're building in triggers that allow those people to be targeted effectively through marketing automation. And again, to your point, personalization at scale. So making sure that if they're coming in on a certain message, they're then being entered into an email sequence that matches that message. And those are the types of things where, this is another thing where I was talking about, the economy being a little bit tougher, making people, take a slightly different approach. I think a lot of it also has been this return to fundamentals that has happened where when, money is easy to access and growth is easy to find, like
Mhm.
I think a lot of companies stopped focusing on some of the regular building blocks that you need to focus on to really be excellent at your craft. And this is one of the things that we have been seeing also. So we've really been focusing on, building out this marketing ops and measurement piece so that we can help companies be more foundationally strong in their marketing approach rather than in the past. We used to have clients that sometimes would just do some back of the envelope math and say, if we get this many leads, it should turn into this many opportunities. And in 2025, that's completely unacceptable. And you need to actually have like a clear definition of how much pipeline and closed won revenue you've actually driven rather than that back of the envelope approach that people used to take a few years ago. So definitely been a big focus of ours and something that we've really been trying to emphasize to all of our clients too, because it is sometimes a little bit of an educational piece too. So we have to explain why it's important that we start focusing on these things. And then it ends up being sort of a no-brainer for a lot of people because driving to real business outcomes rather than marketing metrics is what we're all here for. Have you seen marketing operations and just like the data piece layer into the stuff that you're doing?
One of the things that I've been seeing is actually marketing operations and regular operations are starting to come together, which is really, really fantastic. There's a company called Invoca that they do conversational analytics, and they do conversational analytics very well. And one of the products that they offer, I believe, is called Invoca Presence. And what it does, it actually pulls the browsing data in front of the call center agent. So should somebody make a call after they've been browsing, and it allows you to really create that unique,
Oh, that's
whoa,
awesome.
you really know me moment. And obviously there's a lot of training that needs to happen to make that sound less creepy. But those kinds of elements that are starting to bring in data and the marketing messaging and the actual, whether it's retail experience or operational experience, kind of throughout the entire customer journey, those are the ones that are creating those winning moments for the consumer, which are then translating into winning moments for the business.
It's an interesting point about the combination of like marketing operations and regular operations. I think a lot of these things and a lot of these new tools that are coming out are basically just allowing a lot of the things that used to exist in silos to converge on one another. And ideally, if given the right training, things like that, it can be the tide that lifts all ships.
Absolutely.
But it requires a certain level of sophistication and organization internally or with whatever organizations you're working on. Or vendors you're working with to make sure that it truly does lift all ships. That's like the big key right now is there's enough tools out there that allow people to do just about anything they want to do from a marketing perspective. And it's just about layering them in the right way, structuring on the right roadmap, and making sure that you're actually using them effectively and training to the tool effectively. So I couldn't agree more. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Nataly. I really appreciated this. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about marketing and any parting thoughts? Yeah.
Marketing trends are going to come and go, and they're going to change, and they're going to evolve, and they're going to accelerate. But the things that really come back are to the fact that they're never going to change, is
Yeah.
just human psychology. So if you really pay attention to who your consumer is and what they need, and think about how to improve that experience through your marketing, that's always going to be a win. There's going to be more tools that allow you to do that, but the consumer is always going to be at the center of that equation.
We're seeing a return to a lot of marketing fundamentals right now as budgets get tighter. And that's one of the things that I really hope persists when funding becomes more readily available. I hope that we still maintain these fundamentals and stay focused on listening to our customers and paying
Yes.
attention to their human psychology and creating messages that match that. Nataly, thank you again. This was a really great conversation, and we'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
We'll do it again soon. Really good to see you, Tyler.
All right, thanks.